Episode 5 finally unleashes it, and it was great. We got all of his terrifying glory wrapped up into a bundle for us and gifted to us. We see the kids and the military go on this ill-advised journey, may I add, into the sewers of Derry, where we know, but obviously they don't, what's waiting for them down there. This episode quite literally was, and I'm sure we all expected it, is the best episode of the season so far. It gave us some of the biggest shocks of the season so far, and I'm very, very happy about it. It merged some of that fallout from last episode and then gave us in this episode some of the creepy impersonations, fake outs, and that big mask off moment that we've all been waiting for. This episode basically picks up with the kids reeling from the moment with Lily and Marge, and now everybody thinks Lily is gone mad. But where the kids are reeling from that, and we get this moment with their long missing friend that we all thought was gone, and we'll talk more about that. While the kids are dealing with that, the adults, mainly the military, are making this very, very stupid plan to go into the sewers to look for and capture the pillars. That way they could trap Pennywise. We have some emotional threads in this episode that really pay off. There are a lot of moments in this episode where trust is tested, very, very much so. There are moments where friendships are going to be reinforced. We're going to see some betrayals. Like I said, this episode was by far the best episode of the season so far. But before we get into anything else, let me warn you, there are spoilers ahead. And with that being said, like I said before, the episode started off with them picking right up where episode 4 left off, with Dick basically coming out of Tennille's mind now. And basically they hatched this stupid plan to let's go into the sewers of Derry and let's go get the pillars, and we're going to shrink this perimeter around it, but we're going to capture it. But yeah, stupid plan, because we all know how this is going to end up. But even if we thought this wasn't going to end up this way, this is the stupidest plan ever, because why would we go try to capture something that we don't even know what it truly is? But all of that aside, we now get with the kids, and like I said, they were reeling earlier from the events of the last episode with Marge and her, the problem that she had with her eyes. And now they're up in the stack, and they're talking amongst themselves about what to do next, and they hear something coming from this tent that's up there, and lo and behold, Maddie is still alive. Maddie is still alive? How is Maddie still alive? We thought Maddie was gone. Maddie has been gone since episode 1, at least for us. So I don't know how long it's been for them with his shaggy hair and whatnot. And did you notice he's very, very pale? More on that. But now that Maddie's back, he knows exactly where he came from. No foggy memory or anything. And he knows the sleep cycle of it. And, he got out alive. So of course Phil just has to be down there, but he can't talk and he can't do anything, but he's alive though. But kids will be kids, and kids will do dumb things. And of course they come up with their plan. So you know what, Maddie, since you've been there before, it's either you take us down there or we're going to go to the police so they can send you back to your daddy, because we know that's a terrifying place for you. And what we learned to be a trick, but they don't realize it at the time. I would rather go back to the sewers than be with my father. Man, it must be bad at home. But at this point, like I said, the kids are descending upon the sewers because they want to go look for their friends. That way they can basically try to help out Hank. And a little side story on Hank. He is finally being shipped off to the Shawshank prison, and he's getting aboard the Shawshank Express. And Charlotte's out there, and she wants to talk to him, but obviously that's not going to happen. And the chief of police, lets Hank know that the last guy they sent there only made it a week. So, maybe you'll make it a week or 2 if you're lucky. Man, and we learn, as another side note, that the bus crashes, Hank escapes, he meets up with his girlfriend, and, she goes to Charlotte. And I guess they're going to try to hatch a plan to try to somehow save his life. But like I said, that's a side story that's playing out on the side. Yeah, so that's that side story. But back to the main story. So the kids and the military are both going obviously separate ways. The kids are going through some mystery entrance, and it kind of looks like the entrance from the bridge where Maddie lost his pacifier in the beginning of the season. But maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it's shot from a different angle. Who knows? But the kids are going through that way, and the military is going through the well house, which is on Nebo Street. And they are going to just march in there, kick the doors down. They're rah rah rah, and they really think they're going to. I guess they really do think they're going to succeed in this mission because they reluctantly walk in there with Tennille and, let's go down into the sewers. He's going to lead us to the pillars, which obviously ends up being a trick because Rose told him earlier, when she gave him this shard from the whatever Pennywise came down on. Basically, this will keep you safe. And he ditches it in the water on his escape from the sewers, and more on that later. But Tennille bolts, military's in the sewers by themselves, and basically from here, all the fun starts to pick up because once Tennille bolts out of the sewers, it is on. It is on. But before we get to that point, after Tennille bolts out of the sewers, we have this moment where Dick jumps into the water and he disappears. He reemerges in a bathroom from his childhood and he's with his grandmother again. And there's a scene in there with his grandfather, basically, and we know it's not his grandfather. This is Pennywise taking another form, and he's, like we've noticed, he is in Dick's mind, and Dick does not like this. But this time he is trying to convince Dick to open this box. And it's basically, from what I can kind of tell, Dick's version of his Pandora's box. You never want to open Pandora's box because who knows what's in there. But whatever it is, it has a big burden on Dick. And Dick is clearly afraid of this. He does not seem to be anything other than afraid of whatever's in this box and in his mind because he does not want to let it out. But back to the sewers. And down there, we obviously see Pennywise basically kills everybody. But aside from that, everybody who said that Leroy Hanlon is fearless and he has no fear and maybe he has some shine, or I even thought he had a version of the shine called the touch. But yeah, we were all wrong, and he is definitely a man with fear. I guess he hides it pretty well, and he has a fucked up mind. But Leroy definitely has fear, and his fear was exposed in this episode because Pennywise was also in his mind, because we saw the moment where he had to kill the Pennywise version of his wife, which also led to him thinking that his son, while they were down in the sewers, and let me touch on that, because back to that, the kids, while they were in the sewers, looking for the Pennywise's lair, we finally learned that Maddie is not alive. Maddie is Pennywise. Well, Pennywise took the form of Maddie because, he can transform himself into the forms of the people that he kills or eats, or however you want to put that. He spins around his pole, singing his song, and we finally get the reveal of Pennywise in his full form and all his beauty. And you see my shirt, so I'm definitely glad he is here. And it was a fun moment. It was a great reveal. I enjoyed the build up to this moment because we've all been waiting for it all season, but it was worth every single episode. If they would have waited to episode, I'm assuming 10, because since it's the mid season, if they'd have waited to episode 10 to reveal him, I wouldn't have been upset at all, because this has been a great show just with his presence looming over everything. But yeah, down in the sewers again, he finally reveals himself. The kids, you see Pennywise, what do? You just stand there? Well, of course they froze for a second, but then they strike out and they are gone. And they get a little bit split up because Lily ends up by herself, and she finds the shard of Pennywise's, whatever he came down on, that meteorite. And that's the only thing that saves her in this episode from basically being another one of his victims, because whatever it is, and he scattered away. But going back to the whole Leroy of everything, he sees the other kids bolting from around the corner, and he saw his wife earlier, so now he sees his son. He has his gun drawn, and in that moment, he told Paulie earlier that if you see anything, shoot it because it's not real. So he sees his son, and he's cannot believe his son would be down, because why would my son be down here? So he gets ready to shoot him, and unfortunately, Paulie catches the bullet for him, and damn, Paulie is gone, or maybe Paulie is gone. I think this is the moment that we've all kind of known was coming, and Leroy finally breaks, and he's afraid of something, and he is not this superhuman that we all thought that he was, and he does have fear, and he can be attacked because his biggest fear clearly is losing his family, and Pennywise figured it out and now is exploiting it, and he is just as vulnerable as everybody else, which is probably why we see him in the movies as a wise, but he clearly doesn't forget what happens to him earlier in his life. But after that, we see him back at the base. He explains to everybody, well, his version of what happened, because he's not going to admit to shooting them and what he saw down there. He has to deal with the loss of Paulie, and he asks the general, like, has he seen Dick? And if anybody can find a way out there, is Dick. And obviously we see Dick at the end of the episode coming out of the tunnels, and he is shook. He is broken mentally. It is clear by the look on his face that he is, how can I say, fucked up in the head, quite literally. Because if Pennywise plays with the kids the way he plays with the kids, we saw he tortures the adults. And we get this moment where we see zombie Paulie, and I'm not sure if we're going to get zombies in this season or not, but we get zombie Paulie, and it's just another example of Dick being broken. And we end the episode on Dick's broken mind, and we'll call it Dick's Pandora's box is open. And what does that really mean for what's to come? Maybe what do you guys think? Maybe Dick's Pandora box opening is obviously a foreshadowing on The Shining, but maybe that is how they are going to defeat Pennywise in this cycle, because he's clearly going to come back in everybody's future. But maybe for this cycle's purpose, maybe this is how they're going to basically keep him from killing any more people. I doubt that's going to be true, but maybe that's what it's going to be. Who knows? But I will say one thing about this episode. It is clearly going to leave everybody wondering going forward, who's real, what's left to lose, is there anything left to lose, and where the fuck do we go from here? Because in my opinion, having hope in this show and in the Stephen King universe in general is a dangerous damn thing to have. So what did you guys think about that Maddie Pennywise reveal? Did you pick up on it in the very beginning? I will say in the very beginning, I questioned it, because it's just like, where the hell has Maddie been? And devil's advocate, if he was down in the sewers, what took him so long to figure out that he slept during the day and he fed at night, and you finally decided to leave? So that kind of made me question the whole thing. They never really showed him swallowing the pill like they did everybody else. And then he was always kind of pale, and we know Pennywise is a clown. And if you pay attention to everybody that he's kind of taken over, they are a little off. And if anything, Maddie in this episode, and he's been kind of, we had him for one episode, I guess, and for a part of that, he was scared and off in that one. So he didn't really come off character any, but there was a lot there to question. So for some deep lore related to the book, did you catch the reference to how the town gets infected during the cycle? In this, they called it the Galoo's discharge, but this is basically when it infects the town, and now we've learned that it infects the town through its water source. And, everybody's getting more violent, and aggression is up, and This is usually towards the end of a cycle. So episode 5 was definitely our turning point. We got full Pennywise, we got maximum horror, we got a little bit more mystery because now we're trying to figure out what is this Pandora's box have to do with anything, quite honestly, and how is this going to play into the rest of the season, and what does it have to do with Pennywise, the Stephen King universe, and everything at at large? Because this is obviously leading towards something. Not sure what that something is, but I do think this is going to be an expansion of the Stephen King universe in some type of way, and I am here for it because Stephen King stories have always connected to each other in some type of way. And maybe now, since everybody loves playing a universe game, why not do this with the Stephen King stories? Because quite honestly, this would be more fun than most of the things that we see on TV. Outside of maybe, no, I think this would even be more fun than the Marvel universe, quite honestly, because there's so much material and there are so many different things that if you could put it all up under one umbrella, man, this is going to be crazy. Keep watching Welcome to Derry. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. This is my official recommendation, and I've been recommending the entire season. But if you haven't seen any of my videos and you're just now seeing this one, go watch it. Keep watching it. Also, keep watching my channel. And if you're loving my content, which I hope you are, please hit that like and subscribe button. Keep coming back for more, and I will see you next time. And thank you for watching. Bye.